Thank you so much. What a welcome. Thank you. Grand Junction. What a welcome. Thank you. Representative. Thank you. Senator. Thank you, please. Wow, that's a hello, I'll tell you. That's terrific. Thank you so much. Good to be here with your elected officials, and I see the Attorney General is back here. Attorney General Southers, please stand and be recognized. Thank you, General. Appreciate your being here. He's been leading my campaign in the state. I'm counting on him to get me a win here. Are we going to win here in November? Yeah, Colorado could well be the place that decides who our next president is going to be. And if it is the place that decides that, I'm counting on you to get the job done. Now, let me offer a few words to begin with just about the fact that the whole nation has been watching Colorado over the last, days and weeks as the wildfires have changed the lives of so many people. There's been a loss of life, as you know, and the loss of hundreds of homes. Lives have been changed, and our hearts go out to the people of Colorado who've been affected by the tragedy of these wildfires. We've also seen some of the greatness of the human spirit demonstrated by the people of Colorado as you have come forward to not only fight the blazes, but to fight the devastation in lives affected by the fires. And it's been interesting to read the stories and hear the experiences of people who made a difference in the lives of others. One of those that I'd like to call out today is someone who you may have seen or heard about, J.D. Tenaple, a guy 15 years of age, was doing some lawn mowing around the house, as I understand it, and saw some smoke in the distance and realized that some people could be hurt by that fire. And so he got on his four-wheeler and drove off to go warn people. And the fire was pretty darn close as he went around to warn people. And he warned people one after the other and helped them take activity to get themselves out of harm's way. And then the fire closed in behind him. He knew his dad was behind watching and would be worried about him, might try and run through the fire himself. He turned around and took his four-wheeler through that fire, got himself pretty burned, first and second degree burns, blisters all over his arm, in the hospital. But he did it all because he was worried about people around him who might be suffering by virtue of this fire. And he's a hero among us. J.D., would you stand and be recognized? Thanks, buddy. You know, J.D., take it personally. We love what you did, and we love the spirit that drove you to do something like that. And we celebrate the greatness of humanity, of people acting beyond themselves for something bigger than themselves. It's part of the American experience. It's part of what defines this great country. And so I'm here to talk to you about the course for the country and what lies ahead for America. I know that last week the middle class of America got a kick in the gut when the jobs numbers came out. We found out we'd created only 80,000 jobs. Our nation needs to create about double that if we're going to keep up with the population growth of our nation. And so we're falling further behind under this presidency. And that's one reason why we're going to change him and get someone in there who'll get this economy going. But this week, the president added insult to injury with another kick in the gut by announcing that he has a plan, he said, to lower taxes. Now, we were all excited when we heard that, but you got to be careful. When people in Washington say they're lowering taxes, hold on to your wallet. Because, in fact, he didn't lower taxes for anybody. For some people, he announced your taxes are going to stay the same. In Washington, that means you lowered taxes, all right? So your taxes are going to be the same. And then for others, for job creators and small businesses, he announced a massive tax increase. So at the very time the American people are seeing fewer jobs created than we need, the president announces he's going to make it harder for jobs to be created. I just don't think this president understands how our economy works. Liberals have an entirely different view about what makes America the economic powerhouse it is. I love what Ronald Reagan said. Ronald Reagan said effectively these words. He said, it's not that liberals are ignorant. It's just that what they know is wrong. And the idea, the very idea of raising taxes on small business and job creators at the very time we need more jobs is the sort of thing only an extreme liberal could come up with. This is the sort of thing that used to be in the Democratic Party in the times past. Bill Clinton called himself a New Democrat. He put that behind him. He believed in smaller government, reformed welfare as we knew it, and tried to get the economy going with trade and other provisions, lowered taxes. Look, New Democrats have done some good things. A lot of Republicans have done some good things. But this old-style liberalism of bigger and bigger government and bigger taxes has got to end, and we will end it in November. The president said just give his policies some time. Now that's a change of rhetoric, because you see, when he got inaugurated, he went on the Today Show shortly after, and he said, if I can't turn the economy around in 3 years, I'll be looking at a one-term proposition. And we're here to collect. We have now seen him measured by his own metric. Because he said that if we let him borrow $787 billion for his stimulus, so-called, that they would be able to keep unemployment below 8%. Below 8%. It has been above 8% every month since. 41 straight months by their own measure. He has failed. His policies do not work. Liberal directions for the country are the wrong directions for the country. Now, you look at what he did, and I know liberals like him think these things will help, but they didn't. And we know they didn't. And the evidence that they didn't work is the numbers around us. And these are not just statistics. These are real Americans. These are people who need work who can't find it. It's people in part-time jobs that need full-time work. It's kids coming out of high school or coming out of college that can't find work. Half of America's graduates from college this year, coming out of school, couldn't find work or work consistent with their skills. It's a human tragedy. Did you hear what Dick Armey said? He said, by the way, the American dream is no longer owning your own home. It's getting your kids out of the home you own. People are having to go back home. I'm applying a little humor to a very sad setting where a lot of people are really suffering. And a lot of folks are not beginning the homes they had expected, the families they expected, because of the policies of this president. He says give them some time. Well, let's look at the policies and ask, do these help create jobs? Or do they make it harder for jobs to be created? Look at his energy policy. His energy policy was to say, let's slow down the development of coal. He said, by the way, back during his campaign, if someone wants to build a new coal-fired plant, they'll go bankrupt. So he's put that into place with regulations making it harder and harder to mine coal or use coal. Then with oil, he prevented us from drilling in the Gulf, prevents us from drilling in Anwar, prevents from drilling in the Outer Continental Shelf. Then, of course, you have natural gas, massive new natural gas resources, but the federal government trying to insert itself in with fracking regulation at the federal level. We've always regulated fracking for decades at the state level. Yeah, you're right. Do these energy policies help create jobs? No, you're right. And the more he pursues those policies, the harder it will be for Americans to go back to work. Then there are other policies. There is trade policies. You see, for a productive nation like ours is the most productive workforce in the world of any major nation. It's good to be able to trade with other nations. It creates more jobs. During the last 3.5 years, European nations and China have created some 44 different agreements, trade agreements. This president's put together none. None. In addition, his trade policies are affected by his stance towards China. China's been stealing our designs, our patents, our know-how, our brand names. It's been hacking into computers, both corporate computers as well as governmental computers. It's manipulating our currency. The president refuses to recognize that currency manipulation officially. If I'm the president of the United States, I have a very different view than his. My view is his trade policies don't work to create American jobs. Do you think they're working to create American jobs? By the way, he likes to talk about outsourcing. He's run some interesting attack ads on me on that topic. You may have seen that. And interestingly, a independent, unbiased, fact-checking organization looked at his ads and looked at that attack and said it's false and misleading. But it is interesting that when it comes to outsourcing, that this president has been outsourcing a good deal of American jobs himself by putting money into energy companies, solar and wind energy companies that end up making their products outside the United States. If there's an outsourcer in chief, it's the president of the United States, not the guy who's running to replace him. There's another part of his policy that relates to the economy, and that is every year trillion-dollar deficits. Do you believe permanent trillion-dollar deficits will create American jobs? No. Let me mention one more, and that's regulatory burdens. Look, you need to have regulations to make an economy work. You can't have people all running off and starting banks, for instance, in their garage and taking money from their neighbors. You have to have regulations to make an economy effective, and laws do that as well. So you need regulations, but you need them updated and modern. This president has increased the rate of new major regulations by about threefold over his predecessor. Do you believe adding regulations helps small businesses grow and add jobs? Okay, it's unanimous. The president's policies are not creating jobs. It's making it harder for this economy to recover, to have this president pursuing liberal policies that didn't work back in the past and certainly won't work now in a modern America. I have a very different vision. Let me tell you what I'd do. Let me mention 5 steps I'd take to get this economy going. Number 1, I'd take advantage of our energy resources, our coal, our gas, our oil, our renewables. Number 2, I'm going to take advantage of trade opportunities, particularly in Latin America. We can open up new markets for our goods. Number 3, I'm going to cut back on the size of government. It's taking too much out of our paychecks. My test. Look, I'm going to look at all the programs we have in government and ask this question. Is this program so critical to America that it's worth borrowing money from China to pay for it? And on that basis, the first one I'm going to get rid of is Obamacare. So 1, energy. 2, trade. 3, cutting back on the size of government. 4 is making sure that our workers and our kids have the skills for the jobs of today and tomorrow. We need schools that are the best in the world, not in the bottom quartile or bottom third of the world. And the president talks that talk. He talks about investing in our kids and improving our schools. But look what happens when the president's largest contributor to his campaign and the campaigns of his fellow Democrats, comes from the teachers' unions. It means that those teachers' union bosses have a big say, and too often the interest of those union bosses is placed ahead of the teachers and our kids, and that's got to change. And one more, and perhaps the most important in some respects, and that is, the fifth I'll mention is restoring economic freedom. And this country's economy is propelled by free people pursuing their dreams, working hard, in some cases starting small businesses, in some cases reaching for new job opportunities that they think will improve their lot or improve their family's lot. It is Americans dreaming, building, creating, entrepreneurs, innovators that drive our economy and have put us ahead of Europe and the great populated nations of Asia. This economic freedom was envisioned by the founders. They said that the Constitution, they said that the Creator endowed us with our rights. Not that. And those rights, of course, were protected through the Constitution. And among those rights that they described in the Declaration of Independence were life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. That phrase, pursuit of happiness, means that in this country, people would be free to pursue happiness as they choose, not as government directs, not limited by the circumstance of birth. It's the nature of America to have free people pursuing their dreams. And dreams are being crushed when taxes go up and up and up on job creators and business creators, when regulations become overwhelming and burdensome, when the people in government sometimes treat you like you're the enemy instead of the friend. If I'm the President of the United States, what I will do is do everything in my power to make sure this is the best place in the world for entrepreneurs and innovators, small businesses, big businesses. I will make my job one, creating good jobs for the American people. So let me come back to you. I've spoken longer than you might have expected. Less than I sometimes do. And I'm going to turn to you and ask you for any questions you might have. And I'll do my best to respond. This guy's already up with a question there. So we'll come to that. We'll come to that, and then I'll end with a few thoughts. Please go ahead.
How are you planning on fighting the fourth wing of the Democratic Party, which is the media? Obama said he created 80,000 jobs, and they let it go at that. They didn't say that he lost 150,000 jobs. We need a fighter out there. I've been listening to Alan West talk. He'd make a great vice president. He's a fighter, and that's what we want.
Thank you. All suggestions are welcome. And I can tell you this. We are fortunate that the American people get their information from a larger and larger array of outlets. And so people get their news from cable, from talk shows on the radio, from the internet. And so people find sources that they find to be the most reliable. And so we're able to communicate broadly to the American people, not just through one or two networks or more, but instead through a whole host of vehicles. And that's why I think, for instance, that when the president came out with Obamacare, and when the mainstream media, by and large, thought it was okay and encouraged people to accept it, the American people instead got their information from a wide array of sources and recognized that it's bad medicine, it's bad economics, it's bad policy, and it's got to go. So I'm hopeful, despite the fact that I realize that now and then I'm fighting an uphill battle in some organs of the national media. That nonetheless there's some people who are open and unbiased and are willing to get our message across. And by the way, I can't wait for the debates, to have a chance to go face to face with the president. And so people will watch for an hour or an hour and a half, 3 times, and get to see our different perspectives. Look, the president the other day was kind enough to give me a call on the day that I cinched the nomination, and he said, I congratulate you, and then he said, and I think the country will benefit from an important and honest debate on the issues and on the course for America, on the future for America. And I think that's absolutely right. So far, his campaign hasn't started that. All they're doing is attacking on every diversion they can come up with. But I do hope at some point the president gets serious about talking about the direction for the country and the fact that the direction he's taken us in so far has not put America to work, has not fulfilled his promises, and it's time, in the view of the American people, to take this country in a different direction and make it strong again. Thank you.
Worked for the military bases as a contract engineer for many years.
Can't quite hear you. You work at a military contractor, have for many years.
Yes. And what bothers me is that a lot of the equipment that the U.S. military uses is foreign made. You go on a military base, you see a bus made by Mercedes-Benz. Our troops are forced to use a little Italian pistol that shoots a little 9mm cartridge instead of the big 45 Colt that we used to. And, you know, it's an Italian design. Well, that's nice that they want to support all of the economies of the world, but what about our workers here? You have every piece of manufactured equipment for the U.S. military made here in the United States, and you'll add probably another couple million jobs to what we already have.
Yeah, I actually believe that America can make the best products in the world, and that if we're making the best products in the world, we will be able to make sure that not only in our military but in our homes as well, we're buying American products. I believe that competition and a president that puts in place policies that helps American manufacturers of all kinds compete will create American jobs, and will put those jobs back into this country that have left in many cases. I read an article the other day by a columnist at the Washington Post. His name is David Ignatius. He said, you know, a study has shown that if we were to be serious about taking advantage of our coal, our oil, our gas, and renewables, that America could be the largest energy producing nation in the world within 10 years. And that if we did that and had low-cost, available energy, that manufacturing would come back to this country. If we want American goods to be the best in the world, we want to make sure that the input costs, our energy costs, are competitive. They can be, they will be. You're going to see that happen here. Now let me mention something else about our military commitment while you raise that topic. And that is this. I'm concerned that after the conflicts we've been through, a lot of our military equipment has been shot up and is damaged and is going to need to be replaced. And I know there are some who think we should economize on the military, and we should cut back on our military capacity. It seems to be the one place the president's comfortable cutting, which is our military spending. He's cutting the number of ships we'll make, the number of aircraft we purchase. He wants to cut the number of active duty personnel in our military. My view is this. Our military must be second to none. It must be so superior, no one in the world would ever think of challenging it. And so I would take shipbuilding from 9 per year up to 15 per year. I'd buy more aircraft. I would add 100,000 active duty personnel to our military ranks, and I'd make sure our veterans get the care they so richly deserve. Let's see, I'm looking. Sure, go ahead. Oh, he's got a notepad here. Okay, go ahead. That's not fair. I need a notepad.
Right, so so this year it'll be the first time I'll have the privilege of voting, and so
Excellent.
I paid a lot more attention to politics, than I have in the past couple of years. And I can say that seeing you here, in person, it's given me a lot more respect for you as a person. In terms of the sincerity and passion you have for this country. I totally understand your position on small government. I think it's an honorable stance that doesn't get it doesn't necessarily get the credit it deserves for what it's trying to do. And I see that you project yourself as somebody that is a champion of liberty. And I was really moved when you said that this country is propelled by free people, and that one of the cornerstones is that we're allowed to pursue our own happiness as we so choose to do it. And it's kind of personal and maybe straying from the economic discussion here, but I guess in this example, considering, for instance, your religious affiliation and it being a minority, No, I know, yeah, okay. So I guess just my question is, in terms of social equality and in terms of women's rights or gay rights and liberty in that area, what is so wrong about exploring liberty and giving liberty to everyone in every field, not just in the economy?
I do believe in providing personal liberty, economic liberty, political liberty to the American people, and believe that everyone in this country should have an opportunity to pursue their course in life as they choose. I believe that's what makes America America, and so I support the statement that you make, and there may be some places we have some differing viewpoints. I for instance believe that when it comes to a very tender issue, which is the issue of abortion, and I know Americans, well-meaning Americans, come to different conclusions on that topic, and some like myself attach importance to the unborn child as a life, just as we do to just as we do to the mom and to the person carrying the unborn child. And so, and because there are two lives involved, we have to weigh what is the right course in protecting liberty and life in that setting. And my view is that we should protect the sanctity of life, unborn and living, or unborn and born. And so there's some of these issues that are very difficult for some, and I believe that people come to different conclusions out of a well-meaning intent. So not all these issues are easy, and I think we should show respect to people who've come to other conclusions, acknowledge their right to reach those conclusions, and then ultimately let the American people make the decision as to what they think is right. I don't think that on an important issue like that, it should be decided by a one-vote majority of the Supreme Court. I think these decisions should ultimately be decided by the American people. Yeah, thank you. I'm over here. Yes, sir. Here, I'll give you this one.
You won't get this back. Will you be announcing your vice president selection before or after Orlando?
Tampa? You mean the Republican convention? Yeah. Yes. I can't give you the timeline for that. That's a decision we'll make down the road. Nor can I give you the individual. I can tell you that the person I choose, you will look at and say, well, that's a person who could be president if that were necessary. And that, for me, is the most important single criteria. Thank you. Yeah, Representative?
As a state legislator, will you stop sending us unfunded mandates?
Yeah, you see, state legislators and former governors have pet peeves, and one of them is when the federal government tells you got to do something and then doesn't send the money for you to do it. And that happens too often. I actually have a different plan altogether, which you're going to find creates an awful lot of work for you and your colleagues. It happens to be, in my view, good for America. And that is, we have some big programs. The federal government has become so large and unwieldy that in many cases it's being governed, or programs are managed by people who are so out of touch from what's actually happening in people's lives that they're just not doing the job the programs ought to do. And so I take a program like Medicaid, which, by the way, is a program for poor individuals that need health care, provides health care services to the poor. I'd take that hundreds of billions of dollars, and I'd cut it up state by state based on the shares they're getting this year, and send it to Colorado to say, you care for your own poor's health care in the way you think best. And likewise, And that might apply also to housing vouchers and food stamps, other programs to help the very poor in your community. Because my experience is that what it means to be poor in Massachusetts is different than Montana or Mississippi. And I'd rather let the legislators and the governors of the respective states decide what's the best way to provide care for those that need the care. We're a generous people. We're a compassionate and generous people. We want to have a strong and able safety net for the people who need our care. But I believe that these major programs, to the extent they can be managed effectively at the state level, should be managed there. It will make sure we do a better job caring for those who need the care. And by the way, it'll save a lot of money. Because instead of all these bureaucrats and all these programs that in many cases just don't apply to a state like Colorado as effectively as they might somewhere else, we can save. Do you know how many job training programs there are, by the way? Federal job training programs. 47 different federal job training programs. They report to 8 different agencies in the federal government. Think of the overlap, the bureaucrats. I take that money and say, here, Colorado, you use your money as you feel best to train your own people. And so that means some work as you transition to that kind of a state-led program. But my view is, I like competition. I like states competing with each other, learning from each other. And I have to tell you my favorite story about states competing. I learned it when I just was a new governor, because I wanted my state to grow and add jobs, and my fellow governor, Governor Schwarzenegger, also wanted the same thing for his state. So he came to Massachusetts, put billboards up with him on the billboard, wearing a T-shirt with big muscles, and it said, "Come to California." Here he was poaching jobs from a fellow Republican state. And so I put billboards up in his state with me in a T-shirt flexing my muscles. And it says, "Smaller muscles but much lower taxes, come to Massachusetts," all right?
Governor, I'm the local DA, and I have a crime question for you. About 16 years ago, we had a horrible double murder less than a mile from where you're standing, where a 17-year-old young man was raping an 11-year-old girl and killed her and her 42-year-old mother. I prosecuted it. A Mesa County jury convicted him of first-degree murder. A Mesa County judge sent him to prison for the rest of his life. The Colorado Supreme Court said that's right. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court said that was cruel and unusual punishment. What do you think about that, and what can we do about things like that to keep our streets safe?
Well, this is another issue that a number of people feel or come out on different sides on, people of good faith. I, for instance, feel that, and I realize this was not a death penalty case, yours was a life imprisonment case, but I happen to believe that the death penalty tends to prevent some of the most heinous crimes, and that where... And I also believe, obviously, that the prison terms that are of the nature you described can also prevent some of the most heinous crimes from occurring. This is a decision which is normally made state by state, and I believe in this case the Supreme Court was looking at the age of the offender, I'll tell you, a 17-year-old a setting like that is one that just breaks my heart. I'll look at that particular case But I can tell you, I'm someone who comes down on the side of swift and severe punishment for those who commit these serious crimes.
Tell us about your plan for education.
Thank you. Let me tell you about my own experience in education. And that is that I came into a state where my predecessors had taken some action to reform our education system. And they did a good job. This was back in 1993, a long time ago. They said, you know what? For kids that are going to be in high school to graduate with a degree, they need to pass an exam in math and English. And I added science to that. And we're also going to have the state take over schools that are chronically failing and fix them. And we're going to equalize some of the funding per students. And we're going to open up more charter schools and open the door to charter schools in our state so people have greater choice. And interestingly, these measures and others had a big impact. Massachusetts students are ranked now number one in the nation. There are 4 measures in the NAEP exam you may have heard of. We rank number 1 in all 4 measures out of all 50 states. And I added something else to what they did. I said those who pass this exam, the graduation exam, if you pass in the top quarter of your high school class, you're entitled to a John and Abigail Adams Scholarship, which we established, which is 4 years tuition free at a Massachusetts institution of higher learning, public institution. And so we created a big incentive for kids to do well, for schools to do well, for schools in trouble to be managed by folks that could get them back on track. By the way, the provision, the original legislation said that there was a provision in the union contract which was interfering with the education of a child. If the school got in trouble, we could get rid of that provision. So and by the way, we added charter schools. When I was governor, the teachers union wasn't happy with all those charter schools. They passed a law putting a moratorium on new charter schools, and I vetoed it. Now you might think, well, that stopped it. But in my state, the Democrats had 87% of the legislature. So you might think it's going to be hard for my veto to be upheld. But in this case, the Black Caucus came to my aid, along with a number of other leading Democrats, saying, you know what, particularly in the urban area, our kids need school choice to get out of some of the worst schools. So I'm convinced that school choice and the kinds of measures I described make a big difference. And so what I've said is this: if I'm president, the federal dollars in education, those are dollars that go to the poor and disabled. The federal dollars are going to be attached to the child, not to the school or the state or the district. And so the child can go to whatever school they want and take those dollars with them, so we empower school choice across the nation. Thank you. Right back here. Yes, sir. Here comes the microphone. You got a big voice, but this will help.
Okay, thank you. Something that's very important to the people of this area, and some of us former law enforcement personnel would like to hear you speak on Second Amendment rights and our ability to have our own firearms.
Yeah. You know, I love the Constitution, and I like all the amendments. I'm happy with all of them, and the Second Amendment is one which I respect. I believe that people should have the right to bear arms for whatever legal purpose they have in mind. Simple answer.
In the debates, I'm sure you're going to be hammered about what the other team likes to call Romney care. But why don't you make the point that that was what the people of Massachusetts put you in there to do, and you did what the people of Massachusetts wanted you to do and didn't force it down somebody's throat?
Yeah, thank you. I sure hope the president brings it up because I'll point out the differences between what we did and what he did. What we did was work on a bipartisan basis. My legislature looked at our bill, and of the 200 legislators, only 2 voted against it, of 200. And the business community, the labor community, the advocates for the poor all came together and said this is a good step forward. Not perfect by a long measure. And by the way, I vetoed a number of measures in the bill, and those weren't upheld. But nonetheless, it was something we worked out for our own state. I love the idea that the founding fathers had of federalism. It's kind of a strange term to describe the fact that states are the places where we make key decisions that affect the lives of people. And I like that idea. And I don't like the idea of the federal government coming in and saying, we're going to take away the rights of states, we're going to impose the will of one party exclusively on the entire nation. Our nation is divided about, half and half between Republicans and Democrats. But they said, we're going to impose our will on the entire nation and raise taxes by $500 billion, cut Medicare by $500 billion. By the way, when your more liberal friends say, gosh, you Republicans are going to cut my Medicare, my Social Security, say, whoa, 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 whoa. No. There's only one president that's cut Medicare by $500 billion, and this is President Obama. I want to save and reform Medicare and means test it so higher income people don't get as big a benefits as lower income people, but I will preserve those, and this president has not. Thank you. Good point. I'll keep it in mind. Back here? All right.
This is kind of a comment and a question, but so why is the Obama team and the liberal media want us to think that we should be more angry with what you do with your money than what Obama has done with mine?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not going to apologize for success at home, and I'm not going to apologize for America abroad. I went out and began a business, and the business turned out to be far more successful than I ever would imagine. And by the way, the profits from the business overwhelmingly went to the people who invested with us. Pension funds and even a church pension fund, not my church, someone else's. If you want to know whose, let me know. I'll let you know. But anyway, so and in the process, we were able to create jobs in our own little business, and some of the places that we invested were able to create jobs as well. I saw a report by my former company, Bain Capital, the one I helped start, that said that of their investments in 350 companies over the years, that 80% of them grew, which is good news, and 5% went bankrupt. And you can imagine the only ones you'll hear about from the other side are in the 5%. You won't hear about the 80% where jobs were created. But I find that very different, as you point out, between investing my money and money of people who provided me with their resources for the purpose of my investing it. I find that very different than when the president takes your tax dollars and invests it in the businesses of companies of his campaign contributors, like Solyndra and Fisker and Tesla and Enron and so forth. Someone said to me, we don't like the government picking winners and losers. In fact, they're just picking losers. I believe the government can play a very important role in encouraging science and technology and research. I believe in encouraging those things. I do not believe in investing hundreds of millions, billions and billions of dollars in companies that have political connections. It's wrong. It smacks of corruption. It is not the right course for this nation to take, and I will get us out of that practice in a big hurry. Thank you so much. Look, you guys, I'm told I get one more question.
Our tax code is bad. And it's full of corruption because the lobbyists can go in there and it dictates what's going on. Do you support a fair tax or a flat tax that would get rid of the nonsense so that America can truly be what it needs to be?
Yeah, thank you. I want to see us simplify the tax code. I want to see it simpler, flatter, fairer. What I proposed at this stage is this. I want to lower the marginal tax rate. That's the tax rate you pay across the board by some 20%. So the top rate goes from 35 to 28 and so forth. Bring the rates down. I will limit the deductions and exemptions, all right, so that we can pay for that reduction. And you think, well, then what have we accomplished? What we've accomplished is this. Small businesses and entrepreneurs will be able to keep more of their money to build their business, which is what I want to have done, because for me, it's all about jobs. It's creating good jobs for the American people. So I want to bring those tax rates down. And I'll be happy to look at other measures, the flat tax, the fair tax. I want to make sure that we don't reduce the burden on the highest income taxpayers. We don't raise the taxes on middle income taxpayers. For me, by the way, this campaign is about the middle class and about the poor. It's not about the rich. The rich are going to do fine, who's ever elected. It's the people, it's the great majority of Americans who are hurting under this president who need help. And I'm running to help those people, and we'll do it. And let me say this. Let me just note this. This is a critical junction for America. And you know that. The president says that, I say that. The question is, are we going to be headed in the direction of the liberal policies of the past? Or are we instead going to take the kind of approach that has proven time and again to build the strongest economy in the world? With using our energy resources, opening up trade. Even Bill Clinton recognized the wisdom of fair trade and free trade around the world, of making sure we restrain the size of government, of investing our time and talents in providing jobs or education for our kids, and also in preserving economic freedom. Are we going to do those things? And if we do those things, this economy will come roaring back. We're going to surprise the world with how strong America is, how many jobs we create. I'm absolutely convinced that's what's going to happen. If I get elected and we're able to take that new course. But I can tell you this, the consequence of getting it right is so marvelous. It's so terrific. We will be able to have good jobs for the people today who need them. We'll be able to be confident that our kids can find the jobs they need when they come out of school. And we'll be able to preserve liberty for ourselves and our friends. And I say that coming from a conversation a number of months ago with leaders in Great Britain, with Tony Blair and David Cameron and a number of the leaders there. One of them said this to me. He said, Mitt, if you're lucky enough to be elected President of the United States and you travel around from foreign capital to foreign capital, you will undoubtedly have rehearsed for you all the mistakes they think America is making. But please don't ever forget this fact. The one thing, he said, we all fear the most is a weak America. American strength is the best ally peace has ever known. Strong values, strong homes, conviction in our Constitution and in our principles, a strong economy that's creating jobs, a strong military, second to none. The world depends upon it. Our children depend upon it. That's what this election is going to come down to. Keeping America strong, creating the jobs and the economy that will allow us to do it. I will get the job done. I will keep America the hope of the earth with your help. Thank you so very much. Thank you.